morning, everyone. How are you doing today? I just want to invite anyone who's still on the other side right now, if you can hear me, make your way over here. We're going to get started. And in the meantime, while everyone's still making their way over here, I just want to give you guys the opportunity to stand up, turn to the person next to you, maybe even run across to the other side of the room. Say hi to someone, get to know them a little bit, because here at Epic, that's what we want. We want family time. Sorry guys, we're just trying to get rid of some squealing that's happening here. I think it's me. How's that? Is that better?
Hello, testing.
There we go, I think that's better. I hope you're ready to worship today.
I was nowhere, you came to my stick right now. Yes. You just have a couple of things to tell you. If this is your first time with us, we are so happy you're here. We want first time. All right. Don't want to embarrass you, but yeah, way to go. We want you to feel really welcome. So I'll give you the lay of the land. Through those doors, there are a couple of bathrooms. You can use them anytime. No one will judge you. And we don't take up an offering here at Epic. If you want to contribute to our ministry, all you go is just go to the back, and we have an offering table, and you can give us with cash, credit card, gold teeth. We take it all. So you can do that in the back. And then when we're all done on this side, after our worship time, we invite you to join us for food. And you must eat your body weight in food, because this is a special time. Serwa is in charge, and she's promised Caribbean and favorite delights and Ghanaian food. So I'm just saying, I haven't eaten all week. I've been preparing. Have you? So please join us after. And if you want to get a little bit more involved, back in our offering table, just pick up a connection card, fill it out, give us your information. Someone will contact you. You'll find a way to plug in what we're doing. Let's give you a little taste of what's happening in our future. Next week, if you join us, weather permitting, we're going on a canoe adventure. You need no experience to be in a canoe. As long as you can breathe underwater, you need no experience to be in a canoe. We provide the canoes. We're going to have a fun picnic, weather permitting. And also, if you want to get just a little bit more involved, just tease you a little bit, July 6th, we go to the Ronald McDonald House and we prepare a meal for the family staying there. If you don't know what that place is, it's a house by the hospital. And when kids are sick, their parents stay there. It is like what Jesus would do if Jesus worked at McDonald's. But that's where we go to the Ronald McDonald House. If you want to get involved, we take anybody. You talk to Caitlin. And where's Caitlin? She's over there. You talk to me, and I'll send you to Caitlin, and we get involved July 6th. But above all, today is about having an encounter with the living God. And we are so excited that you are here, and we're going to work really hard to create a space where you can have a conversation with Jesus and leave transformed. We're so excited that you're here today. Welcome to Epic Church.
We just want to invite you to stand here as we get started. Darkness tries to overwhelm my hopes, when sorrow steals to feel the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. Doesn't chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. God, we just thank you so much that we can spend some time here with you today. And God, it's so wonderful to know that we truly can have faith in knowing that our fear doesn't stand a chance, that we have victory in you, that you've promised that in our lives. And so God, as we just gather here, as we worship you, we ask for a sense of that in our lives. Thank you, God.
want to thank the praise team. That was amazing. All right, be honest here. How many of you guys are surfers? Ride the nah. I Googled that this morning. That's a real term. No? All right. Well, Mike Fanning was a pro. He's won basically every award you can think of in surfing. And I'm told that some of the best surfing in the world is off of South Africa. Yeah. Forget Hawaii. That's old news. Yeah. Best surfing. This is what happens July 19, 2015. If you're not easily frightened, go on YouTube. We have children here, so I didn't want to scare them. Here he is. He's riding a wave. And all of a sudden, this is on live TV, a shark comes up and bites the back of his surfboard. For like half a second, he has no idea what's going on. In fact, when he's interviewed after, he says he thought it was like a dolphin playing around. He's like, what a cute little dolphin that's trying to kill me. And then he immediately figures out it's a shark. He dives in the water. Again, I'm not sure what he's thinking. The shark lives in the water. But he dives in the water, and the announcer is going, Mike is being attacked by a shark. And he's just narrating. And then he says, the other surfers should probably get out. And you see all the other surfers out there just like bailing. And the tiny boat, what's it called? The Ski-Doo? Sea-Doo. A Sea-Doo gets out there, and they pull him out, and they save his life. Like, pretty amazing, right? If that happened to me, I would always walk on land, right? 6 days later, he goes back in the water because he's got another competition, yo. And it's almost like if you believed that there were sea gods, it's almost like the sea gods are upset with Mike Fanning because he's riding a wave and another shark attacks from the front. And this time the shark won't let go. He actually has to reach down, and he's saying this in an interview, he has to punch the shark on the head. And the shark lets go. So you think to yourself that 2 sharks is too much. 1 shark is too much. And here's his interview. They're talking to him, and they're like, hey, don't you think it's time to retire from surfing? And this is his answer. He said, surfing got me through the hardest times in my life. So to turn my back on surfing wouldn't be right. I belong in the water. Yikes. To find out solidly with confidence the place that you belong. The place that you're willing to stake your life against sharks. To live with that clarity. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want you to open your Bibles to the book of 2 Samuel. If you got 2 Samuel, open it up. I think it might be on the screen too. 2 Samuel chapter 23. 2 Samuel chapter 23. As soon as it went on the screen, all of you guys stopped looking in your Bibles. That's cool. That's fine. 2 Samuel chapter 23. So the book of 1 Samuel is the story, it's a prequel. It's a story that tells us how King David becomes king. All right? 2 Samuel is a story that tells us what kind of king he is. The things that he does when he's king. And we get to 2 Samuel 23. And 2 Samuel 23 is called like the Soldier Hall of Fame. These are the toughest. Man, I just realized I preach on this chapter all the time. I love it. These are the toughest, meanest, hardest people in the kingdom. If you're on this list, you walk and people know. They're like, oh, look, oh. They know. They know. And guess what? Guess what? This is the most multicultural chapter in the whole Bible. Because there are people here that are not Israelite, that are not Philistine. They're from all over the Middle East. Because there's only one way to get in the Soldier Hall of Fame, and that's you have to be a straight-up hero. It doesn't matter your background, your ethnicity, your money, your status, nothing. You got to be a hero. So if you're up here, it means you did something. All right, so let's read it together. 2 Samuel 23, verse 11 and 12. I'll be reading the NIV, so it might be some different words. Okay, verse 11. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. When the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field. He defended it and struck the Philistines down. And the Lord brought about a great victory. So this story is describing a military encounter, all right? Back in those days, whenever it says troops, that's actually mean the army has been organized. You just don't have troops lying around. It takes a lot of effort to organize the entire army. This is kind of an amateur army that Israel has at this time. So you can imagine that if the troops have been gathered, there's been little skirmishes all day, kind of going back and forth. It's been skirmishes all day, and then something happens that makes the Israelites snap and run away. And we're popping in the story when that's happening. You're turning on the game, and your team is 50 points down. And there's like 2 minutes left. I know that's impossible, but just follow me. And there's like 2 minutes left. This is when you're turning on the game. This is the story. Something that the Philistines have done has made them snap. Because the Philistines are always coming up with like clever little tricks that just mess with the enemy. One time, they got the tallest man in their country, and they brought him to the front. He was a giant, and they brought him to the front, and they said, you have to beat him first before you fight us. And that destroyed the Israelites for 40 days until a teenager by the name of David changed the game. They are so smart. So in this story, they've done something that has broken the heart of all the Israelites, okay? They were fighting, something happens, they go. Momentum, it's a real thing. People actually study momentum. It happens that if your leaders start quivering, if your leaders start breaking, it actually starts spreading to all the ranks. So you could actually have had a guy in the back of the army, I'm ready to do this. Let's take out some Philistines. And he starts seeing that one of the leaders turns around. I forgot something on my chariot. And another leader, and pretty soon the panic spreads and people start running for their lives. And it's not a pretty run. It describes it as they flee. They're tripping over each other. They're pushing each other. They think that they're barely going to escape with their lives. Whatever little courage was in that army is completely gone. So here's the best part of the story. One remains. One remains. The entire army flees, and there's one guy in the field, like a samurai. No, it's a cowboy music. All right, I'm getting my metaphors mixed up. One remains. While all the others run, one remains. They all got their backs turned. He's facing them. I don't know if you know this, but this is crazy. This is crazy because when David meets Goliath, they do something called a champions fight. 1 versus 1. This is 1 versus an army. This has never happened. He's right there. 1 versus an army. 1 remains. All right? To all eyes, he's actually just remaining to die. I want us to kind of think about this because in his eyes, what are the chances you think he thinks this is victory? He's actually just remaining to die. Here stands a man ready to give his life up for something. He is willing to die for something in this story. So there's many a brave people, and I talk maybe armed forces, that are willing to die for something. And I mean, you have to respect that. To be able to live your life in a way where you are willing to die for something. And in some parts in history, and I don't want to get critical here, but in some parts in history, people are even willing to die for things that they barely understand. Entire young men have given their lives barely understanding the reasons for war. Recently, I just finished watching some, I don't know if you see, it's a documentary, They Will Never Grow Old. Has anybody seen that? All right, not a documentary crowd. All right. Okay, here's They Will Never Grow Old. This is what it is. It's going to blow your mind. You got to watch it. Actually, I shouldn't recommend it. There's some bad words in it. All right, don't watch it. They Will Never Grow Old is Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings. He goes to the British archives and he grabs all the footage from World War I. This film is 100 years old. And he restores it digitally. He matches the speed. They recolorize it. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. You have people who lived 100 years ago, and he humanizes them. And you watch. And one of those scenes that I can't get out of my mind, that's stuck in my mind, is there's a film guy. This is how they used to do it back then, actually. And he's in the trenches with the guys. And all these young guys. And they're all just shooting the breeze. They're laughing. One guy's pretending to play guitar on his helmet. I'm like, they had jokes back then? What? Hilarious. He's going like that. And here's what's going on. The viewer and the soldiers know what's about to happen. Because in a matter of moments, the command will go, and they will go over the trench, and almost all of them will die. Almost all of them will die. That's what's about to happen. And you hear the command, and they go over, and in the film, they actually interview some of the survivors. And they ask them, why were you willing to go over? Why would you do that? You know that people versus machine guns, not so good, right? Why would you willing to do it? And the answer comes back. They say, it was my duty. Everyone else was doing it. It was my duty. And one guy says, enough of this waiting. Let's get on with it already. And no joke, after every time they go over, they go and they make tea because they're British. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, but you dig a little deeper. Because the interviewers are like, that's nuts. People can't die for an organization. You can't actually die for a country. It's just a concept. You can't do that. So they dig a little deeper, and the true answer that comes out is the answer that almost every vet has given in the history of war. I would go up, and I was willing to die for the man beside me. I was willing to die for my group of guys. That's why I was willing to die. I don't care about my commander. I don't actually care about the war. I was willing to die for my group of guys. So here's the question. What is Shammah willing to die for? What is Shammah willing to die for? You ready? Here it is. It's right here in the text. Okay. Prepare yourself. Shammah, it's right there in the text, is willing to die, wait for it, for lentils. Lentils. Yeah. Have you ever had a lentil roast? Yeah. Caitlin, my wife, makes a lentil roast. It's delicious. I'm willing to kill for that roast, but not die for that roast. All right? Okay? I don't know what's going on here, but lentils are crazy in the Bible. There's one guy who sells his birthright over a lentil stew. How hungry were these people? There's another prophet, his name is Ezekiel, and he makes a bread out of lentils. Because back then, if you made lentil bread, it means you were going through a rough time. I don't know, Bible people are weird. Hey man, what is that? It's lentil bread. Oh man, I'm sorry she broke up with you, man. I'm so sorry, dude. This is what's going on. He's fighting for lentils. Here's what blows my mind in this story. This is a completely unnecessary battle. Just check it out. If he runs away, if Shammah runs away like everyone else, no city is lost. No house is lost. No source of water is lost. No lives are lost. No one dies if he runs away. The only thing at risk in the story are the lentils. That's it. This is a classic case of a non-urgent thing. The lentils can wait. No. Is it a little annoying not having lentils? Oh, I was really craving some lentil soup, but you know what I also crave? Breathing. Yeah, I'm going to go home and breathe and be alive. But Shammah is willing to die for the lentils. You see, if you go there, you're making a documentary, you go to the chicken army, the guy's running away, and you tell them, did you make the right call running away? They would say, absolutely. We're saving our lives. We weren't going to win this war. They'd have really good reasons. In fact, they would say, we lost our tactical advantage. And the Bible uses this word right here. Oh, in the previous verse, in verse 11, it uses a word. It says that the Philistines banded together. Some of your versions will say they formed a squad. In fact, for the longest time, translators couldn't translate that word. They would translate it as a place because it's such a strange word. But this is what it means. It means, technically, it means to regroup, re-strategize, reform in battle. It's a military term, okay? Let's just go just a little bit deeper for like the military buffs in the crowd, okay? The Philistines have their origins around Greece area. We think one of those islands. In fact, whenever you hear their weapons described, they describe Greek weapons. Goliath, javelin, that's a Greek weapon. It's described as a Greek weapon. And so you want to get a little bit deeper. This word is actually the Bible's attempt to describe a phalanx formation, which is a Greek idea. Some of you are like, what? Phalanx? What? It's actually when soldiers would gather side to side, shield to shield, and only spears sticking out. It's no big deal, a phalanx formation. It's just the formation that Alexander the Great used to kill everybody in the world and take over the world. It's no big deal. It's only an unstoppable formation. That's all, no big deal. So in the middle of this battle, these Philistines gather together and do this formation that the Bible tells us is they band together, and that breaks the morale. And remember, no houses are lost, no water, no special road. They say, let's bail. They think they've made the right call. Has that ever happened to you? You ever find yourself that you're just running and that you're making the right call? Just running from one thing to the next, just urgent, making the right call. Like at the end of the week, you get there and you're like, survive. I made it, I survived. And you go to the next week and it's going to be a little bit more of the same. You're just going to run, and barely survive. Your full-time job is just putting out fires, one after the other. Running. Because, after all, what you're doing in your life right now, smart choices. You're a smart person. Of course you're busy. Everybody else is busy. Run, keep on running. The entire army is doing it. There's got to be a good reason to do it. Lentils are not urgent. Here's the point. The most important things in life rarely carry their own urgency. You have to bring urgency to the most important things, or you'll miss them. No one is going to make the things that matter in your life urgent. It's going to be up to you. No one. Because you see, in this story, Shammah sees something in these lentils that no one else sees in the entire army. Somehow, in the fog of war, he is the only one who sees crystal clear. He can see the consequences of those lentils. Wow. He is the only one that knows that if they lose this field, they will lose the war. If they lose this field, David will lose the kingdom. There's a reason why David's putting him on this list. Because Shammah sees something that no one else sees. Okay, here's some lentil signs for you. Yeah, because I know that's what you want to know, right? Okay, Lentils grow in a cool, dry growing season. Did you know that Canada grows a lot of lentils? Yeah. Lentils are hardy. They don't need a lot of water. But once you plant them, they're actually a really fragile plant. If there's too much water, they die. If the soil's too hard, they die. If you step on them, they die. If it's too much sun, they die. If it's bugs, they die. Dead, dead, dead. Lentils are terrible. When we look at the story, we're talking about pre-agricultural science. We're talking about pre-Saskatchewan days. They grow the most lentils in Canada. Never mind, you don't need to know that. And the scripture is describing this field as full of lentils. In fact, the reader would have looked at that and would be like, full of lentils? Impressive. Lentils are the worst. Impressive. So this beautiful, full field, and Shammah knows that if they lose this field, they're going to lose the war. He knows that if they don't get this food, this is their food supply for the year. If they don't get this food, they will never be able to fight again. In fact, the other guys that are running, they think they are choosing life. They think they are going to live, but in fact, they are choosing death. They will die. They will starve. It'll just be slower. They've already lost. Shammah in the story is the only one choosing a chance of life. That's it. That's it. In fact, we see this in the Bible all the time. There's a group of people come in, the Midianites, and they take over Israel, and the first thing they do is they start destroying every single crop. And without shedding one drop of blood, they dominate Israel for decades. Because if you take away the food, people will not be able to fight you. And the story in Judges 6 doesn't change until there's a guy named Gideon who has secretly grown a crop and is working it in a hole in the ground. And Shammah is the only one who realizes how important that is. He's the only one that sees that. Shammah is the only one who sees that his freedom is on the other side of a field of lentils. Okay, so this is a hard truth. You may be a really active person today. You might be a really busy person. You know, like in our culture, we actually kind of wear that as a badge of honor. If a friend tells you they took a nap, you're like, wow, what's wrong with you? You're the worst human I ever met, right? You may be running as fast as you can, busy as fast as you can, but just for a second, you ask yourself, should I be running right now? Am I missing something? There's a saying, the unexamined life is not worth living. You know, we find this in marriages all the time. You get caught up in accomplishing things, planning things, being organized, and in the end, you miss that it was actually about getting to know people, getting to know each other. You could be caught up running so fast in school, getting trained, and you might completely be missing what your passion is. You might be missing the lentils right beside you. I mean, in church world, this happens in church world. You know, we get busy doing things, and we think that church is working when more is happening, and in the end, it's actually about lives being changed, and you can miss that. It's about like falling in love, getting to know Jesus, and we can miss that. We're running, we think we're busy, and yet it's like we're missing the lentils all the time. It looks like you're alive, but you're actually already dying. You've missed out on your calling, your true calling. Okay, that's not the worst part of the story. That's not the worst part of the story, because you're with just a little bit of self-reflection, asking a couple of questions. It's doable. You can find out what's actually important in your life. It's actually doable. No matter where you are in your family, with just a little bit of self-reflection, thinking, just a little bit of study, you can figure out what truly matters in family. It's relationships, by the way. You can truly find out what matters in church. You can find out what matters in work, what matters in school. It just takes a little bit of self-reflection. That's not the hard part. In fact, I bet you that the other Israelites also knew what Shammah knew. They did. They knew. They'd heard the stories before. You take over their food, eventually we die, and they still ran away. Eventually, people know. That's not the worst part of the story. This is the hard part of the story. The difficult part of the story is that your victory is always on the other side of your greatest fear. Your freedom is always on the other side of your fears. Because I know that you've seen glimpses of who you should be. Because God is having a conversation with all of us. And he's always giving us glimpses. This is kind of what I created you for. There could be more in your life. Did you see that glimpse that I showed you? That desire of your heart, did you see it? And yet, that life will always be on the other side of your greatest fears. This is the truth that we find in Shammah. Your fear, giving into fear, will always create your boundary. Have you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, I don't do that. I had a bad experience"? That's a boundary. Their life actually got smaller. It didn't get bigger. Maybe you tried a new idea. You fell flat on your face. You're not doing that again. You just made a boundary. Your fear limits you. It creates your boundary. Another way to call this is actually to call it pain. If you've gone through something in your life and it's created pain, and I'm not knocking it down, because I know some of you have walked through some very painful times, and that's real. And if you're here with us, we want to walk with you. But sometimes our pain will define your life. I remember the last time I was vulnerable with the group, this and this happened to me. I will no longer share. I will no longer be vulnerable. Guess what? You will not experience community now. You've come this close with Church World, with Jesus, experiencing this, but you're not taking the next step. You're not committing because it's fear. Fear will define you. In fact, it gets to a point, so much so, that sometimes you think you have a choice, but in fact, your fears are making your choices for you. You no longer have choice. Fear will create your boundary. Your freedom is on the other side of your greatest fear. So, this is what Shammah does. And this is kind of the message. Shammah takes the path of greatest resistance. Yeah. He's turning the tide of an entire nation. The path of greatest resistance. You know, sometimes we talk about the status quo. You know that to do anything to the status quo will always require greatest resistance, pushing through. If your life's been a certain way the whole life, it will require resistance, pushing through. And I love it. It's just 2 verses. It's just so clean cut. It's one of those decisions, these one-time decisions that happens in life. He decides that he's going to stand up, and guess what? You can't take that decision back. He faces the enemy, and in an instant, he is the target of an entire army. There is no doubting whose side Shammah's on. He's taking a stand, a public stand. He's standing facing an army. Now there's no running away. There's no turning around. This is a one-way ticket. And he takes the stand. I can just imagine being Shammah, standing there, and your entire physical being saying, "Move, run, be safe. Move, run, be safe, get out of here. What are you doing?" And yet, Shammah is choosing the path of greatest resistance because he knows that freedom, the only chance of freedom, is at the other side of his fear. Philistines are looking down. Hey, hey, there's a guy there. Whoa. Oh my. What's he doing? He's willing to die? Really? For what? I think it's lentils. What? No. Really? Wait, am I willing to die for lentils? And it's just so amazing that there's hardly any description as to how Shammah does this. It just says that he defended the field. My lentil, back. No, mine, back. We don't know how long the battle goes. We don't know when the Philistines snap and go, hey, we're not going to get these lentils from this guy. Let's cut our losses and bail. And he defends it with his life. The tide turns. Here's the most shocking part of this story. The only reason we're looking at the story is because Shammah lived. Is because Shammah won the battle. Let's be real. If Shammah had turned around and he'd been mowed down by an army, like usually happens, we wouldn't even be talking about this story. We wouldn't even be talking about the story. Here's why Shammah does this. This is what I want to leave with you. You were not created to just exist. You weren't created just to survive from one day to the next. I just want you to know that we all just have a handful of years. And some of us live like our life is going to start in the future. Like you're going to live forever. You only have today. If today is a day where you just run again, you're burning daylight. We have to treat every day like it's a sacred gift. An invitation to your true life. Because I know that this moment in history is a raw deal for this generation. Because there has never been more messed up stuff. There has never been more people being put down. Impossible situations every day. And yet you're called, this generation, you're called to stand up. To make your stand for something that matters. And here's what the clear thing is in Shammah's story. In that instant, he knew what his life was about. His life was that he was willing to fight for his brothers and for his sisters. That his life was worth giving for them. Just a little side. Your greatest adventures are going to be when you work for others. When you do something for others. Because the test of life is not how much you can get, it's how much you can give. Your greatest life is on the other side of giving to others. So this is Shammah. He stands there. In one verse, he puts a stamp on what his life is. Whether he lives or dies, he takes this commitment not knowing. We know he is the only man in that field who will die free. Whether he lives or dies. He does this because he knew that fight was worth fighting for. Here's something sometimes we do. If your indicator in life is success, be very careful. Because some of the best things in life, some of the most worthy battles in life will not look like success for a long time. And sometimes will never look like success in your lifetime. Some of the greatest things that have changed in history look like failures the entire time. Let your indicator be that this is a battle worth fighting for. And the Philistines looked at Shammah and they said, don't mess with that guy's lentils. See, everyone else had already chosen a lesser life. They'd already chosen to die. They just didn't know it yet. So two things. First thing, reflect on your life. Get off the treadmill just for a second. In Christian world, in the spiritual conversation, we call it quiet time. It's just a time when you think. It's a time when you have a conversation with God, when you expose yourself to something different. Reflect on your life, because you could be missing out. You could be running through a field of lentils when in fact you should be stopping and fighting for that field. Reflect on your life. As a family, stop, reflect on your life. I know this might be different, but this is something called just radical accountability. Is your life matching what you would want it to be, what you were called to do? Reflect on your life. Second thing, your freedom is on the other side of your greatest fears. This has always been true. So when in doubt, if you walk away with something today, when in doubt, choose the path of greatest resistance. Walk into a situation and go, what's the hardest thing that can be done here? That's where I'm going to. When in doubt, choose the path of greatest resistance, because the opposite is always running away. That's the path of least resistance. Choose the path of greatest resistance. Know that the hard things are the good things. Know that being vulnerable, being open, that's hard. It's actually the greatest strength. Know that being weak, this is what the scriptures talk about, being weak is actually the greatest thing you can do, and your fear will no longer dictate your choices. Choose the path of greatest resistance. And if you're on the edge today, and you've been in the spiritual conversation, but you're not making that step to commit to Jesus, you're still on the edge, you're wondering to yourself, wait a minute, I'm here, I'm in the conversation, but you still haven't taken that step to commit to Jesus. Because once you don't make a decision like that, it's just like what Shama did. You take a stand. There's no taking it back. Everybody will know. That's why I love that something like baptism is public, so that everybody knows. It's something that's hard. It's something that will take courage. So maybe you've been on the edge for a while, and today you're feeling this conversation God's having with you is pulling on your heart. And he's saying, I want you to just step up. I want you to take your stand. I want you to take your stand and know that on the other side of your greatest fears, that's where freedom is. On the other side of this step, that's where your freedom is. That's where your life begins. That's where what you were created to be, that's where it starts. Take your stand, commit, make that step. And if that's you, if God is moving you in that direction, I just invite you to come to the front. Just to come to the front. This is a difficult thing to do. Just come to the front. Make that stand for Jesus. Make that stand. Come to the front, and we will pray with you.
chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Till you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. God, we just thank you so much for that reckless love. That we know that there's purpose in you, that there's meaning for our life, and that there's victory at the end of the road. God, I want to pray for everyone here who might be wanting to come up, but just feeling like something's holding them back. I just pray that you would help take those burdens, those things that are weighing them down, that are keeping them from making that decision for you today, Lord. That they can just shed it all and run towards your wide open arms to that reckless love. We thank you today, God. Amen. Thank you for worshiping with us today. Again, if you want to come have a prayer with Pastor Moses, come on up. If you just want to talk to someone, come on up. We want you to be able to move past wherever you are right now in your life. We have food next door. Please join us. We love to get to know you a little bit better. And if you want to keep worshiping with us, you can do that right now as well.